over how awesome that binder looks.
Okay.
For the perfect picture. Or sir.
Wait till you see mine. See better.
I am a country boy.
So
How you doing this morning, Dr. Garner?
I'm pretty good. How about you?
Thanks.
We are. Here's we are live. Got it.
that was bean. It was questionable. It was either a bean or a rookie. It was bean. Bean.
Hey, I got something to tell you.
I'm following weirdness.
Yes.
What are you telling me?
Almost that time. I got just a couple minutes.
This is nice. That's what we're not going to
Find me a sponsor.
last time.
Yes, I remember. The name.
Maybe a little bit of that.
I'll make sure I get the message on the sender tonight.
It's
And we'll do all morning.
Put them in there. Add all these on the ice ball. I got Mr. Freeman. And they're ignored. What you want chest fans on? You want chest fans on there? Oh, give me for what I do. Thank you, darling. I'm trying to do this side. Oh. I meant to wait. Where does not Psych officer.
Yeah, it's emotional thing.
Brother, I've been in that office.
I understand.
Then you want to be my lover. Might as well call me a couch
What are we doing now?
You're welcome. Anybody else need some? Go ahead. Hang on, this.
All right, gentlemen. Time to get this thing started. Make sure we have some sign-in sheets and that we're making sure that that's legible and readable. Make sure that we've got our books, all of that stuff. And if you're at North, make sure that the sign-in sheets get turned in for me, please. I'll be back over there to do the notes after all this is over with. And let me share with you, I'm not feeling all that well this morning, so this thing may not be as long as it normally is. But if you have your books, we're going to look first on page 21 and go through that just a little bit. It's one of the reasons we need to bring our books to class is because we are going to reference it from time to time. And today on page 21, this shows us what we're doing this week. This week is about emotions.
Oh, no.
So we're going to be talking about emotions. We still have the same guy that we had up here for the physical health. He's going to be our same guy for emotional health, but he's in a different office. Before he was in the ER. Today he's in the psych office. And we're going to be going over some emotional myths. And what's a myth? If I'm talking about a myth, what is a myth? Yeah, it's kind of like make believe. It's something that it's not necessarily true, but we believe it to be true, and we act upon it like it is true. It's a myth. And so we're going to go over some of those emotional myths today.
So you say we believe it's true. You say I want to make sure I understand. You say we believe it to be true, but it's not.
Right.
That's what you said?
Right.
Okay.
We believe it's true,
but it's not.
But it's not true.
Okay.
It's a myth. And we do that with alarming regularity. A whole lot of us believe something that somebody taught us as a child or we just came up with on our own, and it's just not true. So we have to look at our belief system when that happens and see if we can't change that.
Yeah.
Now, real quickly, we're not going to stay on this forever, but I want to share this with us out of our book. But I do have a question for this morning. And if you know the question, please blurt it out so that no one else can learn anything. And, no one else can get any prizes or anything. Just blurt it. No, don't do that. Don't do that. If you know the answer, please just keep it to yourself, and then later on, we'll ask the question again. This at the end of the session, and then you can raise your hand, and we'll just let you tell us what that is. Now, what creature on the face of the earth is immortal? What creature on the face of the earth can live forever? And if I might tell you, I'm going to tell you that it is not a vampire. Okay, it's not a vampire. So, but there is a creature that is immortal. So, if you know what that creature is, let us know. We'll talk about it this afternoon when the thing is over. Yes, sir.
Alligator.
Yep.
All right. See, he just blurted it out, even though you asked 45 times. Don't do it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do it. And we said also that it's going to be at the end of the group.
Oh, I
We're
think
gonna, at the end of the
Oh,
group,
I
at
didn't
the at the at the at the at the end, and let me share this with you. See, I mean that's kind of destroys the whole thing, you know.
because I got spread eyes.
And no, you didn't.
Oh.
How many people know that alligators don't live forever? They don't live forever. But now there's two that we know it's not. We know it's not vampires, right? It's not vampires, and it's not what? It's not alligator, right? So you know, y'all be thinking about it.
Alligators can hide and in the water.
Yeah, that yeah, I think that's true. It said alligators live in the heat and in the water.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. Don't have anything to do with anything, but it's true. I think that's true. You know. So look at him. We're going to be talking about emotional health. Is our emotional health important?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's very important. Look, last week it was all about physical health, and we talked about physical health and how that was important to our recovery, and that's very important to our recovery. The next thing, what we're talking about today and all this week, we're going to hit up on it, is emotional health and how that's important to our recovery as well. So we've got to have a handle on our emotions, or you know, it's going to be problematic for us. So this is just a place that shows us where we might be in whatever we're looking at. So this week we're looking at emotional health, and you might be in a place of denial or avoidance. While you've been told you have some self-realization that emotional health is suffering, you might believe, you might know that, but you've not taken any steps to address it. You've not looked at it really. The concerns, you've not looked at those. You're not trying to make any improvement. Possibly you've denied the existence of any problem. Let me share with you. I have some emotional things going on with me. Everybody does. Why's that?
That's it.
That's a really good point. You've got feelings, and our feelings and our emotions are interchangeable. We are emotional beings. Male and female are emotional beings. So we can't just deny our emotions because they're there, and whether we want to deal with them or not, they're there. You know, we're going to have some issues with emotion. So the next thing is, look, we get a little bit of insight, a little bit of acceptance. Here's one of the things that my goal for the little groups that we do here and the stuff that we do here, I want to see us move from one spot to another. It's just like somebody that's on a diet. If you're trying to lose some weight, you want to see some progress in that, right? You want to weigh this morning, and when you get on the scales, you want to be different than you were yesterday, right? I'm going to have to go sometimes this month to see my endocrinologist, and every time you go in there, they're real strict on weight, so they're going to weigh me when I go in there, and if I've gained weight, then my endocrinologist is going to yell at me for about 10 minutes. Endocrinologist is the sugar doctor, diabetes doctor, and they're going to yell at you. Gained 22 ounces, you know. So you want to do that. You want to keep up with that. And the same thing with mental health, the same thing with emotional health, physical health, all of that. I want to be moving in the right direction. And so this is my goal for the group, that we move in the right direction. So what's our goal for our group today?
Move in the right direction.
To move in the right direction, to learn a little bit more about how to deal with emotion. Sometimes this week, we're not going to do it today, maybe tomorrow, the next day, something like that. We're going to go over some specific emotions, like we're going to do anger. How many folks in here have an anger issue? You have an anger issue? He has one? You've got an anger issue? Okay, so you got an anger issue? Yeah, you're making me mad right now. You know, so we'll be talking about that sometimes this week, but we need to, if we have anger issues or depressive issues, don't we need to know a little bit about how to deal with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, because uh, if we don't deal with our emotions ourselves, guess what? Society will deal with our emotions for us. So we need to do that. So the second thing is I've got a little bit of insight, a little bit of acceptance. I've moved a little bit in that direction. Willing to listen to some professionals at this point, complete some assessments, accept the insight into my current emotional health. I'm willing to sit in a group like this, and instead of just poo-poo the group, I'm willing to listen a little bit. Get some treatment, maybe if you get to that place where you accept that there's a condition there. There's something going on. Something's not right. Something's not right. So I need to look at that. And then we're going to move over to the place where at some point we have to take action. Most of the time, other people, we can't depend on them to take action for us, right? Now here's the deal: if my emotional issues get to that place where it is problematic for other people, somebody will take action for us. The police will come get us. The guys with the white coats will come get us. Somebody's going to come and get us. And I don't want somebody to come get me, so I'm going to take action for myself. It's always better that I take my own action than have somebody else take action. So you've been accepted, or you've accepted the need for improvement of your emotional health, and you're actively seeking help. You're looking for a place to get that, willing to take suggestions, willing to take constructive action toward improvement. Willing to listen when someone tells you, hey, you have an emotional issue there that needs to be dealt with. So the next one is, once we've taken the action, then we can have some work on our self-esteem and our healing, getting over whatever the emotive thing that's bothering us so badly, getting past all of that. We're currently engaged in honest, positive work to address emotional health concerns, including in-depth sessions on an individual level with therapy or counseling professionals. At that point, we've gone through the action thing, and we're now at a place where we go to therapy if we need to. We can go see the counselor if we need to. We can do some other things. And then lastly, when we've got to the best place we can get to, it's we've got some meaning and some understanding in our lives. You have a rational understanding of your emotional health. I know what's wrong with me. I know what I need. And that's why I ask about folks if you have an anger issue and people raise their hand. Because we actually think we have an anger issue. We don't. No such thing.
Yeah.
But we think we have an anger issue. So once I get to the place where I'm honest with myself and I think my anger is problematic, then I can work on that. I can do something about that. So over here, I'm fully participating in maintenance. I've accepted the work that I'm doing as necessary for ongoing positive emotional health. So look, it's important for me to know where I am emotionally. I've got a guy that I'm working with that I can look at him and he starts crying. Is that normal? No. Is it okay for people to cry? Yeah. I cry. Well, my wife told me the other day when I was coming home from church yesterday, actually, we was coming home, and we went out to eat and all of that stuff, and went and visited a church member, and then we were headed home. And I said, what would be good now? Would be, stop, get a gallon of ice cream so we could have a little dessert, for after. She said, no, we ain't stopping for no. I shed a little tear. So it's okay. It is okay for us to be able to show emotions, to be able to shed a tear when that's necessary, all of that kind of stuff. But it is not normal for us to be at that place where our emotions take us over every day, and that's all we do.
Yeah.
I know folks who they're emotional all day long. That's not normal. It's hard to lead a productive life if you cannot control your emotion. Isn't that true? And that goes for any emotion. It goes for anger. My wife suffers from high anxiety, and it goes for any of that stuff. She just bought her a brand new truck, and we're going to go in October. We're going on a vacation. We have a little RV, and we're going to pull that RV. And she's having $3,000 worth of mirrors put on the truck. Because she feels like that's going to be safer, and because she has this high anxiety, she's afraid to go on the trip because we got to get these. Sure.
Where you guys going to?
We're going to go into Alabama, Florida, Georgia, maybe Georgia, and then back.
When is it?
In October. Yeah. You'll probably be all healed up, well, and in your sobriety. And out of here by then. So we're going to look at that. Now, there's some myths about our emotions. There's some things that are just not true. We've accepted it usually as fact, but it's not true. So we're going to look at some of those today and see if we can't make some sense out of them. And if we get the opportunity, we're going to go over into some emotional regulation. What does emotional regulation mean?
Repeated substance use impairs the brain's ability to regulate emotions. This can make it difficult to manage stress, disappointment, or abuse. Emotional responses become more impulsive and less calm.
And so he just pulled that right out of his brain. That's what that is. Yeah, you found it in the book. There's a place in your book that talks about emotional regulation. Where are you at? Where did you get that?
Back of the first page.
Oh, that's on the little thing that the newsletter that we hand out. It talks about emotional regulation on there. And so that's the deal. That means I'm going to regulate my emotion, right? Basically, that's what that means. I'm going to regulate my emotion, right? So, we'll look at that if we get an opportunity. But first, I want us to go through these myths. And maybe we can talk about them, explain them, demythicize them. What is demythicizing? That's what we changed it. If it's true, we'll talk about it being true. If it's not true, we'll talk about that too.
Break it down.
Break it down, yeah. Let's take a look at them. So, okay, here's the deal. One of the myths that we have out there is that there's two types of emotions. Those emotions are good emotions and bad emotions. Is that true?
Yeah.
True. He says it's true. Why is it true?
Yes. Good and bad. Good and bad.
There is good and there is bad, but emotions are what?
Both.
Both of them? They're, like you said, like Sergio said, they're emotions. We can't label emotion a bad emotion or a good emotion because they're just that. They're just emotion. Now, sometimes when we use the emotion in a bad way, and sometimes we use the emotion in a good way. When we fall in love with somebody and we do what we do when we fall in love, we send them flowers and candy and all of that. That can be construed as a good emotion. It's not. It's just an emotion that we're using in a good way. Now, when we get angry, and we'll be talking about this later in the week, but our IQ drops by about 40 points, and we'll do stupid stuff. And when, people get angry and do stupid stuff, it causes us to look at that and say that's a bad emotion, but it's not. It's just an emotion, and we use it for bad things. Yes, sir.
I heard what you just said. When we get angry, I keep clockwise.
Yeah.
You said
no, not in your case. I don't think it does. I think in your case, if it dropped by 40 points, you just you fall out the chair. No, look, we're gonna look. Let me share it. We're going to be talking about that at a different point now through the week. But yes, if you get angry, your IQ drops by 40 points. Or whatever your IQ is, that's why you do stupid stuff. When we get angry, we tell, I do an anger group, and those people tell me, well, I out of control. That's why I shot them 7 people. I was angry. I can't help myself. That's not true either. So we're going to move from there. So this is look, Emotions are good or bad. That's a myth. That's not true. We believe that because when we're angry, bad things can happen. When we're in love, good things can happen. But they're still just emotions. Everybody is imbued with these emotions. You're not different. I've had a lot of people tell me, now I'm different. I can't deal with my emotion. No, you're not different. I have people tell me when they can't sleep at night, they'll say, let me tell you, Doc, I can't sleep at night. My brain's not, I'm not like other people. My brain never shuts off. My brain just goes ever and ever and ever all the time. It's just 100 miles. Everybody's brain does that. If other people, when they lay down to go to sleep, their brains don't shut off. That's why you dream and you do all of those things. That's not why you can't sleep. There are other reasons. And no one's brain just shuts off. If it did, you'd just fall over, right? Your brain is the one that tells your body to breathe, tells your blood, your heart to pump, and all of that kind of stuff, to move, to walk, to talk, to do all of that. If your brain shut off, you just fall dead. So it doesn't. That's not true. So a lot of things we're talking about not true. But here's a myth. Although some emotions are uncomfortable, is that true? Yes. Yeah. I'm not comfortable with a whole bunch of emotions. I don't like getting angry. I'm a Christian. The Bible tells you that when you get saved, you have the Holy Spirit inside of you, and you have love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, and long-suffering. See, all of those are supposed to be. I'm a Christian. I've got the Holy Spirit living in me. I shouldn't get angry. I get frustrated, and I get angry, but I'm not supposed to, right? And I get frustrated when, we've had two people dragged out of the group already this morning. And they're going, okay. So, and I know that's necessary, right? They have to do that. They have to do their work. And that's important work that they're doing. And so, it's I need to realize that and just let that go. But it's still a little bit aggravating, because they take all the good clients and they leave the bad ones in here. I'm sorry. I had a couple. See, that's those emotions now. Y'all got your feelings hurt. All right, look. Some emotions are uncomfortable. Even those emotions that some people think are good. When you feel like you're really, really super duper attracted to someone, that can be uncomfortable, can't it? I mean, you don't know how to act at that point in time, and it can be uncomfortable. And anger is an uncomfortable emotion. When you get your feelings hurt, that's not comfortable. There's all sorts of things going on. They still play a vital role in our lives. For example, the emotion fear alerts us to danger. I saw a thing this morning on Facebook. I was sitting down, I'd done all my study and everything, and I was ready to come to work, and I sat down there looking at Facebook a little bit, and there's this lady who was a delivery driver person, and she came and delivered the thing up on the porch, and then there was this dog. It's a friendly dog. It's waving, wagging his tail and all of that stuff, and she was scared of dogs. So when the dog started walking toward her, she crawled over the side of the porch and was hanging on the porch until the owner of the dog could come out and get the dog. So, she's scared to death.
She's scared of dogs.
Yeah, she was afraid of dogs. I understand. We were over at the group at North the other day, and about 5 of you guys walked past. So carrying books and carrying boxes and doing that kind of much more important than what I'm teaching. I've come to understand that. Does that show I have emotion?
Yeah.
Is that, see, that's a little bit aggravating to me. He's not going anywhere to be doing anything clinical, is he? No, whatever he's doing is picking up something or something. So anyway, fear alerts us to danger. Have you ever thought of guilt as an emotion? Yeah. Guilt is an emotion. So when I do something that I shouldn't do, then that causes me to have guilt. So guilt reminds us that we've gone against what?
our own morals.
Yeah, our own morals, our own values, what I value. I've gone against what I value. So that guilt comes up and says, look what you've done. So that's a good thing. It keeps me a little bit more, because I know if I go do that, I may enjoy doing that at the moment, but I know that the aftermath of that is going to be guilt.
Yeah.
So our anger motivates us to do what? Anger in the right place motivates us to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, look, let me share this with you. I'm all about being assertive. Look, if I do something, say something that you feel is wrong, you have every right in the world to tell me about that. You don't have any right in the world to be aggressive toward me at all. I don't do that. And you shouldn't be passive. You shouldn't just let me say or do anything I want to do. And, you have that right. But here's the deal. I don't need anger to remind me or to help me to stand up for myself. I'm going to stand up for myself whether, I don't have to get angry to stand up for myself. But when somebody does something against you personally and it causes that little bit of anger in you, then you can use that anger to help you be assertive, to help you stand up. What does assertive mean? Nobody knows? We hadn't ever talked about this before, but 19 times.
Bold, confident.
Bold, and here's the deal. Aggressive means I'm going to get in your face and I'm going to win. And sometimes I do, but sometimes you get in the wrong person's face and you won't like it.
Assertive is like assured.
It's like a who?
Assured.
Assured. Yeah, it is. But here's the big thing about assertiveness. When you're aggressive, that means I have to win. When you're passive, that means you have to win. When you're assertive, that means we're both going to win. This is going to work out for both of us. I don't like what you just did. So I'm going to come and tell you that in a calm, polite way. And it's going to work out for you, and it's going to work out for me. It's going to become a win-win situation. That's what I really love, and really, we talk about emotions. We have people just walk out of the group. That kind of touches my emotions. Look at that. Just walking out of the group. Then we have other people. I tell them what assertive means. Grab the dictionary. Bring the dictionary to group with him. Okay.
Get a better understanding.
Get a better. No, I think that, look, and like I said, I'm assertive, I'm not aggressive. I think that's a great thing for you to do. It's wonderful. Especially if it turns out I'm right. When it turns out I'm wrong, that hurts my feelings. So look it up and read it for us. So, think about how has any uncomfortable emotion helped you in the past. I tell you, some uncomfortable emotions. The biggest one I can think of that's helped me a little bit is guilt.
Yeah.
Guilt. Because I know if I go drink, I hadn't drank in a bunch of years, but if I go drink, I'm gonna be guilty, man. That's gonna tear me up. I'm gonna be filled up full of guilt after that. So that emotion is keeping me from wanting to go back. Yeah. So I don't want to. And that's the big deal, I've asked people, why don't you? Well, I don't want to. That's right. Find it.
Yeah.
What did it say?
So, what you said was.
Oh, what I said it was. Well, that's all right, but read it.
I was saying that you were.
I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Right. What I was saying is, I want to get
deeper.
real understanding of.
Oh, you want to read it for me? You want to read
it?
What did it say?
You can read it.
I let him read it.
What was it?
I wasn't trying to say it like you didn't know what you was talking about, but I was just wanting to know how it can be used in a way like you said.
In a sentence and all of that stuff too. So you got it. You're gonna read it. He's on another page. He don't even know where he is. He's lost.
Assert myself. Right.
Yeah. And like we said, that is wonderful. That's what you do.
To state strongly or possibly I'm sorry, to state strongly or positively. Affirm, to maintain or defend, to state as having existence, affirm or to postulate.
Okay.
It's like,
So in there it says just to be affirming.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, but it should still work out for me and work out for you. So here's our next myth. There's a right way to feel.
Yes.
Yeah, is that true? You said yeah. Is that true? No.
Yes.
I've had people tell me you don't have a right to feel like that. Well, you know, when somebody comes and grabs somebody out of the group and it frustrates me a little bit, I've had people, you don't have the right to what? You can't tell me how to feel. You know, you can't tell me how to feel. You can't do that. You know, you shouldn't have, you don't have the right, you know, if somebody gets up out of the group and goes in and makes them some oatmeal and all of that stuff in the middle of the group, you don't have the right to be frustrated by that. Yeah, no. Here's the deal. You don't have the right to tell me how to feel, right? So you can't tell me how I am supposed to feel, right? I'm also a certified grief counselor, and when I'm dealing with people who are in deep grief, we have a thing called complicated grief, and that goes beyond the 5 stages of grief. Somebody's been in grief for 10 years over the loss of a parakeet. Does that sound natural, normal? That's not, they haven't, okay, that may not seem natural or normal to us, but can we tell them how to feel? No, we can help them work through that deep-seated grief over that parakeet. No, we can do that. I've been grieving for that parakeet for 10 years. At some point, we need to get our lives back on track. Right? Right. So, but I don't have the right to go down and sit with that person and tell them you ought not feel that way. Right? Because I can't tell you how to feel. I can tell you how to work through your feelings and get back to a place where you can lead a more normal life without forgetting the parakeet. You're always going to remember the parakeet, but you're not going to allow that to keep you from being able to go to work anymore. You're not going to allow that to keep you from enjoying watching other birds fly. Stuff like that. So, yeah, sometimes there's not a right way to feel.
You have a right to say it, but it don't mean right, wrong. When you say it.
Right. And I have the right to feel the way I feel. Right? Yeah.
Right.
So is that a myth?
It is a myth that there's a right way to feel. Because when we're looking at a right way to feel, that's when I'm thinking about how you ought to feel, and I'm telling you, this is how you ought to feel. How are you going to tell me how I ought to feel? You can't do that. You can't do that.
Just like a person, like we all entitled to our own opinion.
Right, exactly.
We also entitled to be wrong in our opinion.
We are, yeah. We're entitled to our own opinion. We're entitled to be wrong in that opinion. We're entitled to have our own feelings, even though our feelings go contrary to everybody else's feelings. I'm going to tell you something. Y'all know when there's people all the time trying to come through the front door. And there's been a couple of those delivery drivers that do. They'll open that door, come right up in here and talk to the lady over there and all of that stuff, disrupt the whole class. Everybody in here has a feeling about that. Some people, myself, frustrated, a little bit, I ain't liking that. Other people thinking it's kind of funny, you know.
The way I feel about it is there ain't a big enough sign on that door.
And I believe Sergio's right. He said, we have a sign up there that Miss Haskell put on that sign a long time ago. She put that sign that says, please go around to the back. And And I think Sergio's right. That thing ain't big enough.
Yeah,
It ain't big enough. I'm not certain that when those drivers come up there and take a look, they pay attention to it if it was the whole length of the door, because they have their feeling is right. They're, as well. They're pulling up here and they say, well, I ain't got time to go around the back. I'm trying to deliver these people some stupid stuff.
they got a job to do.
They got a job to do, all of that kind of stuff. But, as a counselor, I was taught, man, back in the day, I'm one of them old counselors, I was taught way back in the day that if there's a group going on, whatever that group is, you don't interrupt the group. You, for whatever reason, unless the building's on fire or there's an active shooter or something like that, now you can go in that group. But if there's nothing like, you don't interrupt the group. We interrupt the group here with regularity. We've already had 3 people come in and interrupt the group this morning. But we don't do that. But each one of those people have a different feeling about that. Yeah.
They need a bigger physical boundary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
I think we need.
see a gun and it put me in mind of somebody just opening the motherfucker's gun and just letting it go.
Yeah. And see, and how many people had a little bit of feeling about him using, that pornographic verbiage he just used in our group. He used all of that bad, ugly, nasty language, and see, that hurt my feelings deeply. I don't know if I can go on. I don't know if I can continue the group. I ain't never heard that kind of cussing in my life. I'm hoping the people over at North didn't hear that. Sir? Well, we ain't gonna tell you what it said. Man, said about what it say? What it say? Man. So here's the deal. If our emotions don't line up with our expectations, we can feel confused or frustrated. But the truth is that no 2 people have the identical emotional responses, even to the same situation. Given this, understanding that, it's impossible to find one right way to feel. So when that guy comes busting in the door there, and just kind of, and instead of just walking in quietly over there giving us stuff and walk back out, he had to talk. I'm sorry for interrupting y'all group. I didn't mean to come off in here all the way over there and all the way back out. So he did, instead of interrupting the group a little bit, he interrupted the group to the highest level he could possibly attain. And so, okay. But if you look, in my way of feeling, if you walk up to that door and you look, and there's 20 people in there, and there's a facilitator in there, this ain't where I'm supposed to be. You ought to get that. But like I said, we got 20 people in the room. There are going to be 20 different ways of feeling about that. Just like you said, Mr. Freeman. He's got a job to do.
Yeah.
Some people like that. Some people are going to find it funny. Some people it's going to cause a little bit of anger in them because they really want to get that group. Yeah. They really want to get what's coming out. They really need that, and that might save their lives. And here this guy is. So we're all looking at it just a tiny little bit differently. So it's impossible to say, let's see, this guy here, that's exactly the right way to feel.
Yeah.
So you do know, though, even though we just said that, we feel like that the way I feel is the right way to feel, right?
Yeah.
And so, look, you don't feel like I feel, so the way you feel is the wrong way to feel.
Wait, hold on. So you saying basically if we don't agree with you, he's wrong.
That's exactly
we don't feel.
That's exactly right. That's how we a lot of the times look at it, but is that true? No, that's not true. Because you have the right to feel the way that, and there's going to be people in here it doesn't bother at all. There's going to be people here who don't think it's funny. It's not going to bother them. They're not going to get angry. They're not going to get hurt. They're not going to get frustrated. They just, okay, it's a thing. And so the guy comes in and it's no big deal at all. So that's okay. Yeah, So everybody here feels the way they feel. Why? Because that's the way they feel. And so we can't point out one of them and say, hey, you feel the right way. That's the right way to feel. But you feel the wrong way. because everybody has a right to feel what they feel. So there's no right way to feel.
Yeah.
That's a myth. And so if we get a hold of that and we understand, it's just like thinking. You know, what you think about me, whose business is that?
Yeah.
That's your business. So you can think anything you want to about me. That's your business. The opposite is true too. I can think anything I want to about you. That's my business, right? So I can't tell you what to think about me. You can't tell me what to think about you, and you can't tell me how to feel about somebody coming in that door. And I can't tell you how to feel about it. You can't tell me how to feel about somebody coming and stealing somebody out of the group for 5 minutes to go and polish your shoes or whatever they're doing. You know, you can't do that. But I can't tell you the same thing, right?
Yeah.
All right. So there's no right way to do it. Here's another myth. Talking about our emotions is useless. Talking about our emotions, talking about the way we feel, is useless.
Why would you say it's useless? I mean, why would you say it's useless? That's your emotion.
Yeah, that is your emotion, but we're not talking about emotions now. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about emotions. We're talking about going to the counselor and sitting down and saying, hey, this hurt my feelings. Oh, look, hey, I have guilt, shame, and remorse over this. And I really can't go on with life the way it is. I have all this guilt, shame, and remorse that's bothering me real badly, and I just can't carry on. But does it do you any good to go and talk to somebody about your emotions?
Yes.
Does it?
No.
What did you say?
I think it's good. You let it out.
Okay.
You let it out.
All right. So when somebody says it's useless to talk about your emotions, that's a myth, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not true. It's a really good thing. This is what we do. It's called talk therapy. And the reason it's called talk therapy is because we don't just give you a pill or give you a shot.
Yeah.
We talk about it. We talk it out. And I will tell you, I've been a counselor for a long time, and I will tell you this, that the best thing I've ever seen to help someone feel better about whatever it is talking it out. Sitting down and talking about it. I have couples that are on the verge of splitting up. Sit them down and just let them talk. And I'll guarantee you, it helps. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're going to fix everything and keep going, but it helps. And a lot of times it does do that. So whatever emotion that has you by the hair, you know, you can go and you need to sit down and talk to somebody about that. So it says, look, the benefit of talking about emotion goes far beyond problem solving. We need to do some problem solving. Because here's the thing, if you have an anger issue, that's going to cause you some trouble. If you look back in your life at the last time you really became really angry, not just upset, not just frustrated, but really super angry, it didn't turn out well. It never turns out well. Yeah, never. So, you can look at that and see that. So the benefit of talking about emotion goes beyond that. Talking about emotions helps us make sense out of what we're feeling.
Yeah.
Why we're feeling that way. That sometimes, look, you guys don't know it, but you guys are sometimes my therapist. Because I talk to you when somebody does that, when they come in that door, when somebody comes and steals somebody out of group and somebody comes in talking, we've had 2 or 3 ladies at one time come in giggling and talking and all of that stuff, and right in the middle of the group, and we're all wait. We have to wait till they go out that way. But what do?
Talk about it.
I tell you about it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't keep that stuff boiled up. I tell you, and look, y'all might not know this, but I tell them too. Now, I'm not going to ever tell one of these counselors, don't come get somebody out of group. I'm never going to tell them that, but I'm going to tell them how that makes me feel when they do that. So far, it hadn't happened. It hadn't helped. So far, it hadn't slowed them down. But it's therapeutic for me to talk about it. Right? It's therapeutic for me to talk about it. And sometimes I solicit you to give me back feedback, and sometimes you do that, and that's therapeutic for you as well.
So, what you just said, it does you no good to let that stuff ball
No.
up inside. You need to get
No.
that out.
Right. And I will share this with you that I almost never do that.
Yeah.
Because that's really not good. If you let it build up inside of you, you let it boil up inside of you, it's going to fester and it's going to get worse and it's going to get worse. So no, that's why I'm very open and I'm very quick to say something about it, and I do, and it makes me feel better, and I feel better about that. So talking is really good about it. It helps me know why I'm feeling like I'm feeling. And I'll tell you, one of the reason that I get a little frustrated about it is because I study this stuff. I get this stuff out and I think this is what needs to get out. And then somebody steals that away from people. When you come and get somebody out of group, they're missing everything that I have worked for a week on to try to get, So that's why I feel like that. But everybody that, the rest of you that they don't like as much, they leave in here. So that's not true. This alone can make things more manageable and even lead to new perspectives on things. So when I talk, and I tell you, I had to come to that when I first started working for Land Manor, because Land Manor is the only place that's ever happened to me. And nowhere else. And a lot of it is because of the facility.
Yeah.
Not because of policy, and it's not because, but it's the facility. We have to be right here, right now. Look, this is the most open facility I've ever worked in, because this is out there. Everybody can see. Everybody's there. We've got this door and that door that people. It's the most big.
Yeah, that's a distraction.
It's a big distraction. All of that kind of stuff. But it's But I had to get a different perspective, because when I first came here, that oh my God, that was the worst thing in the world. This is why I teach a topical group, which just means we're teaching a topic, which that means that it doesn't matter who comes through. It doesn't matter who comes to the door. Everybody can be part of a topical group, because we're just learning something. Yeah. A process group, I would not do that. I will not do a process group in this situation, because that's confidential. And
That's what?
confidential. Nobody's supposed to know what's going on in a process group except for you and your counselor. So that I wouldn't do it. So this makes it more, you get a different perspective on how things are when you talk it out, when you talk to other people about it, when you let them know how you feel, you can get a little bit better perspective on it. That means I get a little bit better idea of why things are going on like that. A little bit better perspective on why somebody would groom their beard and group. Yeah, it is nappy, but that's not. It is, yeah. That ain't nothing you should. Thank you. You look a lot better though. You do look a little. I saw something moving in there earlier. Yeah. So how about look? Others will think less of me if I show emotion. If I let somebody see that my feelings are hurt, if I let somebody see that I feel guilty, if I let somebody see I'm a little angry, they're going to think less of me. Is that true?
It's possible.
Yeah. It is possible. I will tell you that it is a myth. That is a myth. Most people won't. Most people won't. Most people will avoid you if you're showing a lot of emotion. If you're an angry person, most people will avoid you. Most people, if you've got a lot of guilt, shame, and remorse and all of that stuff going on, most people will avoid you. They don't want to be around that emotional outpouring. They're not going to want to do all of that. But there's some people who will. There's some people that are going to think less of you because you're just emotional, they'll say. There are some people, but most people are not going to feel less of you because you're emotional. So showing emotions can be, and this is what we're talking about, showing emotions can be intimidating. Because sometimes, look, y'all know this, people don't know how to react to emotion. You start crying, do people rush over and say, can I help you? What's going on? Some people do. There are people who are just, man, I know people that if you start crying right now, they'd rush over there and make sure everything was okay and all of that. Miss Kim would do that, she just, all that stuff. But not everybody does that.
Make sure you're all right. They'll come. Make sure you're all right.
Yeah. I'm gonna go see Miss Kim and say, you go check on him. Because he looked like he's about to fall out. He's crying. He acting a fool. So, But some people, a lot of people are intimidated by whatever emotion you are showing. If you're angry, a lot of people are intimidated by folks who are angry. A lot of folks get intimidated by people who are just having any kind of emotional thing going on at all. They just don't want to get involved in that. So, it's intimidating to some people, but it's also a relationship superpower. What do that mean? If when you're open about your feelings, others see you as authentic. Others see you as relatable. It makes you more likely to have healthy and fulfilling relationships. That's why it is a relationship superpower. I talk like, I'm a pastor. I talk to people all the time about all those kinds of things. And one of the things is that the guy usually is not showing much emotion. I've had ladies tell me, well, he tells me he loves me, but he's never shown me that. So how do you show somebody you love them?
I treat them right.
By treating them right. That's a really good thing. I was going to say by giving them $5, but by treating them right. That's exactly, yeah. By being a gentleman, by being a gentlewoman, by being a good person to them, by doing the next right thing. I was in a couple's home yesterday. He's 77 or something like that. She's 72, and she has Alzheimer's. And I'm her pastor, and the husband introduced her to me, introduced me to her, and been her pastor for years. No idea who I am. And so a few minutes later, she's looking off, and she looks at me again. She has no idea who I am. Within a few moments, boom, no idea who I am. So that's wild. But the husband has been there. He's cooking, he's cleaning, he's taking care of her. He's been doing that for years. And so, the next, how many of us would do that?
Yeah.
I'm doing that to some extent right now. Yes.
He loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, some of us are caregivers. Yeah.
And my brother.
Yeah. And that's
to out to eat.
Yeah.
Wash to the shower, clean him up, change his clothes.
Sure. And that's a hard thing. Yeah. So, and this is the same person who their son just died.
One lady in the restaurant, she just kept watching us. And when she gets some food, I think it's like at one of the places you go up and fix your own food.
Right. Buffet.
The lady ran into my brother. She says, "Can't y'all take good care of y'all father?"
Yeah.
I like to see that. My brother said, "Oh, that's my uncle." She said, "Oh, wow, that's good."
Yeah. Yeah. And some people are really appreciative of that. And I am. You see somebody that's a really good caregiver, that takes a whole lot out of a person. And so, that's just doing the next right thing every time. So, here's the deal. Like Mr. Freeman said, there are people out there, if you show emotion, they may think less of you. But look, that's their issue. That's not my fault. That's not my problem. That's their issue. So they're going to have to deal with it. I don't have to deal with that. They have to deal with that. So I'm not gonna, that's not gonna bother me a whole lot. So here's the deal. You're gonna be, if you let other people see your emotions, you're going to be authentic and relatable. That makes you more likely to have that healthy and fulfilling relationship. When we talked about relationships, we talk about that's the kind of relationship we want to have. A healthy one, a fulfilling one that's going to make me want to stay with that person for the rest of my life. Instead of some lady said the other day, a week, maybe the rest of my life. So another myth is this: if I feel too much, I'm gonna lose control. Is that true?
No.
No, not usually. Now I will tell you this: if you get way angry to the point that your IQ drops way down there, you can lose control. But you're not usually going to lose control over your emotions if you let your emotions show. Many are afraid that if they allow themselves to feel a difficult emotion, even if just for a second, they'll lose control. But refusing to feel an emotion actually gives it more power than when we go ahead and let ourselves feel it. If my feelings are hurt, I just need to let them get hurt. If I feel that guilt, shame, remorse, and all of that, I did something that made me feel that way. I need to let myself feel that and then go on from that. I don't need to let that thing take my life over, but I can feel it for 10 minutes and then let it go. Yeah. That's what I can do. And then, look, as we speak about these, we need to understand that we are the ones in control of our emotion. When that emotion comes up, I either have the authority, the power to either say, yeah, you go ahead, or no. And that's really helpful with anger. And like I said, we'll be talking about anger on down through the week. All right, let's see. We got enough time for one more of these things. Look, and this is really this. I should be happy all the time. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, he wants to be happy all the time. That's why he takes drugs. Because he wants to be happy all the time. All the time.
I didn't been sad enough for me and you.
Yeah. So he already been sad, so now he will be happy the rest of his life. And look, how many people want to be happy?
Happy.
I want to be happy. I want to be happy. When I'm happy, everything is better. I came to work this morning. I did not feel well. I just, feeling bad. Yeah. I went and told my boss, I'm supposed to, after this, I'm supposed to go to a meeting. We have a leadership meeting, and I'm not going to make the meeting. I don't feel like going. So I'm going to go do my notes, and I'm going to go home. But I'm going to tell you, once I got going, I got to feeling a little better, and I feel a whole lot better right now, and that makes me what? Happy. Yeah, happy. Yeah. So and that's the deal. Y'all remember this? There used to be a song that came in, happy. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that make me happy is if that man could sing. If that man could sing, I'd be happy. But he don't have to sing though. He's such a good guy that Look here, happiness. It says happiness is great. It is. But look, I should be happy all the time. That's a myth. That's a myth. Because look, there are things that happen every day that will steal your happiness. Here's the deal. You can't let whatever happens every day steal your happiness for the rest of your life. You can't keep it. It may be able to steal it for a few minutes, but it ain't going to be able to keep it. So happiness is great, but it's not always the norm. Even if social media posts create that illusion and make you think that, by seeing happiness as an occasional gift rather than a guarantee, we can savor it more fully and not blame ourselves when we don't feel that way. I came in this morning. You know, we have this program that we're doing now as the staff of Land Manor. We have to fill out a thing that's ask some specific questions, and we have to type up this thing. And so I did all that. I got it all done and turned it in Friday. I think I did a pretty good job. I was feeling great, and I left it in my boss's box. And this morning I go in, and I'm thinking, I see it laying on her desk. I said, "What you think about that there?" So I was feeling kind of happy at that point because I knew I'd got it in on time and everything. And she said I hadn't had time to look at that. Well, that kind of put a little bit of a damper on my happiness. And I said, okay. And then she said, "We'll have the next one out for you." I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, you got to do one once a week for the rest of the year." So that took my happiness, ripped it completely off, and threw it down in the dumpster, and then jumped up on top of it and stomped on it for about 10 minutes. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Yeah. So no matter how good that one is, I got to do all once a week until the end of the year. So, so I'm gonna get over. I'm gonna be able to do it. But still, that kind of formed on my happiness a little bit. So, look, happiness. See that? And see, I went past the break time. See, and Mr. Isles, he watching the clock get up there to the break time, and his happiness is growing. And when it went past the break time, his happiness went off. Yeah. Let's take about a 15-minute break. We'll be back in here about, say, 17 minutes after 18 minutes.
The definition of a word is subjective. Yeah, correct. It ain't just you using it and what you using for in here. I'm using to take, all right, that, I'm trying to spend it more, spend on it more. See, that's how motherfucker learn. That's what the dictionary for. Now he always go grab the dictionary. Oh, man. Damn, you got your degree, let me get some.
It's a cold day.
Hey, good morning, Cordell. How you doing? Good.
Down to the sea.
Hey, hey. Yeah. I'll go down the street with you. No problem, you know.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Let me go.
Yes, sir. Hello. Mr. Garner said, well, howdy. Well, howdy. Mr. Miller, I can't even look at you.
Oh, no?
If they stick my head up, they can be sad. Well, here's your fact sheet.
The cleaning supply.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, what do you need?
I got you.
What do you need? I'll go grab it.
Just some glass cleaner and some that do.
Or if you don't know, I can just grab it.
Yeah, I'll just stick glass cleaner. Where's your bleach? You got the bleach spray? I'll take the bleach. Please.
You want to put that on the
Yes,
bleach?
please.
The blue bleach? Well, I don't know what I'm
The
going to
spray. Surprise me. I like surprises. God, brand new. Oh, Lord.
Hey, Kim, why don't you go and start some mess?
Oh, wait. Hey.
What's that?
Oh, I can't smoke it in here? Why not?
I need to start some mess.
Let's get bombarded. Got a cigarette?
Mm-hmm.
Got a cigarette? Got a cigarette? No! How much time do I have? Oh, I got.
I'll put that on you.
I'm gonna save it for next week.
Mm-hmm. I want to see how that works out.
Yeah, you already know. Yeah. Waiting for Phoenix Plus.
I'm gonna
Oh,
do like
that's nice. Did I do that better than
See,
no, I didn't.
no, oh no,
I'm like,
those are just the two drawers, they're the most. So that's all, there's so many on those. They're the ones that's a big pain in the ass. And Mr. Kennan, where are you at? At this room. Yeah, so, Miss Kim. Yes, ma'am. I remember one day I walked into the kitchen, like literally 5:40, 5:45, 5:50 maybe at the most. I walked in that kitchen and everything was done in here. I said, who the hell did this? Who did this? Who the hell did this? So I went down, hunted him down. And it was Mr. Kenneth. Everything was done. 5:50.
It wasn't even this weekend.
Yesterday it was done by.
And it wasn't even this week in the
It
kitchen.
wasn't even this weekend in the kitchen.
I know. He jumped so the 18 in the kitchen. Big dark in the kitchen.
Excuse
And
me.
Nick, and Nick.
Get my
I
neck.
did my time and shit got done.
Yeah. Hey, come talk to me in our office.
She gave you a raspberry.
Oh, we need to tell homeboy. But we need cigarettes. I don't look at that.
I know,
Just say it. Say
but
what
why
you're
I
gonna say.
don't know why you stop talking because I know what's going on.
Yeah, see, she knows.
I'm still pissed off about it. Okay, all right. Because you didn't hear what we said.
Again? Something else? Well, I gotta go clean that. Come on.
So now they're getting cigarettes? Now they're finagling and I guess making a plan between the two of them because that's what this break and I said, I think, I look down the road and I said, you can leave with her. They go in the door like these ready to come in here and clean out. Yes, they come in like he's here to do that.
Absolutely.
He did.
Hold up, you know.
And go Mr. Barber.
What?
No. Fine, Mr. Ortiz.
We work together. We work like a patient girl.
How you doing?
And Doug's orders. I don't get crazy.
We need to work.
This.
off the info. I got it. Just send me a message. Is it unlocked?
Which is so stuff, and it doesn't matter.
We got 3 minutes.
Get down and sit. We don't have
Yeah. We got 3 minutes.
I'll be there first.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you can't do.
No, we stay out there, but
Yeah, one more minute. Everybody, financial.
You grab one of those. You grab the sign-in sheet.
I haven't gotten either one of them. Has. All right, let's get this thing kicked off so we can get shut down. All right, welcome back. Most of us are back in our places, and we're going to finish this stuff up on emotions. We still have a few emotional myths I want to take a look at, and we've got time to do them all. The next one we're going to look at is that emotions are inferior to logic. Now, let me share a couple of things with you. You know, we have talked about this probably 100 times, that we do need to be cautious about allowing our emotions to get over our intellect, right? Because when we are operating only on our emotions, we're going to do whatever we feel like we want to do. And a lot of times when we do what we feel like we want to do is what? We'll wind up relapsing, because what we want to do is use drugs or all of that stuff, get into a victim stance and all of that. So we want to make sure we don't do that. But at the same time, emotions and logic are kind of like partners, okay? They work to enhance one another. So it is a myth for us to say that emotions are inferior to logic. We need to have both of them. I don't want my emotions, if I let fear or if I let guilt, shame, remorse, or if I let anger, anything like that override my intellect, then I wind up doing things I shouldn't do. But at the same time, for a balanced perspective, we need both emotions and logic. Logic is great for solving problems or for thinking through options, but only emotion tells us what we actually want and care about. Only our emotions are going to tell us actually how we feel about something. So we need to have both of those working together, right? So, if, for example, if we feel strong jealousy, we're really jealous about somebody, then, no, wait a minute, that's not true. I'm in the wrong place. Only our emotions can tell us what we actually want and what we actually care about something. So what that tells us is that we have to have our emotions and our logic working together and balancing each other out. And at the same time, we need to understand that when I allow my emotions to get over my intellect, what will I do? Anything I want to. And a lot of times what I want to is not healthy for me. So I got to make sure that I can allow my emotions to be and not let them overtake me and get me to the place where I'm going to do the things I know I shouldn't do. So I've got to be cautious about that. So, how about this? I can always trust my feelings. You know, is that a myth? Yeah. So, why can't we always trust our feelings? They're our feelings. Why can't we trust them?
Might be wrong.
Could be wrong. Yeah. Your feelings could be wrong, yeah.
Because, let's say, for example,
You might really want to jump off the cliff because it might sound exciting and cool, but if you jump off the cliff, you're gonna die.
Yeah, and let me, Sergio said you might want to jump off a cliff because it sounds exciting and fun and cool. Let me tell you here that's not going to be a problem for me because I don't think jumping off a cliff. I don't think jumping off a cliff is exciting, fun, or cool. But yeah, he's right. Sometimes your emotions, sometimes your feelings can lie to you, right?
Yep.
Sometimes you can. Yeah, I've seen that happen a whole bunch of times when somebody thinks they're in love. Somebody thinks, they just got to be with that other person. All of those, sometimes they feel like they're, they're nasty when they're alone. Yes, sir.
So, what is responsible for the lie to your feelings?
To your feelings? Who's responsible when your feelings are lying to you? Guess who? You have to take responsibility if your feelings are lying to you. That's your fault, But here's the deal: I can always trust my feelings. You know what I always trust?
What's that?
My higher power. I always trust the Lord Jesus Christ. I always trust the Holy Spirit, but I am never going to always trust my feeling. If I feel something about a thing, I'm going to go down. Usually there's two things I do. I'm going to think about it, pray about it, and I'm going to talk about it. Now, if my boss in here comes up with a new thing, and I'll tell you, y'all know Mr. Farmer, he's coming up with a new thing. Is he breathing? He's coming up with a new thing. That's what he's doing. That's all he does do. Comes up with a new thing. That's him. So when some of those things he comes up with, I go, oh my God. But back in the day when I was young and dumb, bye y'all. I ain't doing that. But nowadays, what do? I sit, I think about it, I pray about it, and I talk about it. Now I'm going to talk to him about it. But you can talk to anybody about it. I'll talk to somebody else about it. I talk to my wife about it. What do you think about this? What's that? And, we get it all talked out. And then while I'm talking it out, I'm talking to me. I'm making it okay in my mind and in my heart. The thing about it is, if we ever get to that place, somebody says, well, this is what you're going to do, and that's against my moral standing, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But I'm still going to sit down, think about it, pray about it, and then talk about it. And once I've sat down, thought about it, prayed about it, talked about it, then I'm going to I'm going to make my mind up on which way I'm going, right? So I know I can't always trust my feelings. Yeah, sometimes, like when Jay came through here a while ago and dragged him out, back in the day I had something to say, but y'all noticed Jay about 3 times my size. It's best to think about it, pray about it, and talk about it. So I can't always look.
So, Mr. Court.
Yeah.
So, what you saying? What Cheryl should do before you jump off the side of the cliff?
Well, if I look, yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
It feels good, right?
It might feel good, yeah. But look, let me tell you this. Have y'all ever been to the Grand Canyon?
Yes.
I went to my wife and myself and our 2 children. We took them I have 2 boys. We took those guys to the Grand Canyon with us. And we're sitting over there. We're looking down into the Grand Canyon. And oh my gosh, that thing is deep. And then over here, there was an outcropping of rock that went way out. And we're just hanging out, looking around, and we looked over there, and there's my 2 sons. Both of them sitting there with their legs off the edge of that outcropping, and there's about 600-foot drop, and we're going, oh my God, So emotionally, my wife is going to say, honey, don't yell at them. Don't yell at them. If you startle them, they'll be right off of the cliff. Yeah, So sometimes, and I walked over and I eased them off of there, and then I said, look, y'all, I'm so relieved that you didn't fall off the cliff. I'm not going to beat the crud out of you, but, don't do that again. So it's wise to pay attention to emotion. It makes sense for me to pay attention to emotions, but it should be cautious, or we should be cautious about how we interpret how we feel. Yes, sir.
But they thought it was cool.
They did think it was cool, and it was pretty cool. You know, I mean, there was nobody. They had gone over the fence. There's a thing there that said, "Don't go down there," and they had gone over that. You know, one of them was like 15, the other one was like 13. They, you know, they thought that's the coolest thing. And you know, I'm surprised the people at the park didn't arrest them all and take them and you know, and put them in prison and all that stuff. They didn't. We have to interpret what we feel. For example, if we feel strong jealousy, we may leap to the conclusion that our partner is cheating, despite not having any actual evidence of that. I have dealt with people, you know, couples, he, she, both of them. You know, I just know they're. How do you know? You know, well, I feel. Well, you know, you're feeling like that's happening doesn't mean that's happening, right? If you feel it, you know, then that doesn't mean that that's what that doesn't. It's not concrete. You know, you don't actually know it. You know, if you actually know it, that's different, right? And I've dealt with people who actually knew it. You know, we know that. Yes, I walked in the room and there they were. You know, so I actually knew that. But if I haven't ever had any terrible thing like that happen to me, and I'm just imagining it or thinking it or allowing my jealousy, my feelings of jealousy to tell me that that's probably what's happening, that doesn't make sense, does it? No. So we can't always trust our feelings. We have to get to the place where, look, if I'm feeling like this, then I need to go somewhere and do what? Think about it, pray about it, talk about it. You know, if I feel like my wife is cheating on me, like suddenly we're getting the milk free, I'm going to go talk to her about it. You know, how come you're getting the milk? How come you're getting the milk free? I want to know. You know, I'm not accusing you of anything, but the milkman is bringing lots of milk over here. I just want to know. You know, so I am. But before I do that, look, I've already thought about it. I see what I see, and I think what I think, and I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to let the Holy Spirit lead me in that. Then I'm going to go up there and say, hey, look, you know what? We ain't drinking no more coffee. We ain't putting milk in our coffee no more. Yes.
And what they chocolate do?
Why they got rid of the milk tea?
Well, that's you know, it could it could be why you got to be in milk.
I said not milk with milk things to the household.
Well, because we got a male lady, you know. And whereas that could be an issue as well, but you know, if we don't even have a milkman. I just try to make a point. You know, you understand? Yeah, but you know, we got the young man back there. You know what's going on with Mr. Allen. He went out there and worked out and everything. Got all that blood running through his muscles. Come back in. Did you have something?
No.
All right. So it's why. Look, we don't want to jump to any conclusions because of how we're feeling. You have to have some concrete evidence that something's going on before you got something to say and all of that kind of stuff. You need to understand that feelings can sometimes fool you. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes feelings can catch you off guard. Sometimes feeling can tell you a lie. It could be lying to you, right? So you need to know. So that's why you have to pray about it, think about it, talk about it before you act on that. Yeah. I had a couple where the lady ready to leave. You know, she got bags packed and all of that kind of stuff, and the guy actually had done nothing. But she had asked him a series of questions, and he did not answer them to her liking. He didn't even know what was going on. So it was kind of like she was trying to trap him. Okay, I mean that's not a good plan. But she was working on those emotions, right? Sometimes you cannot trust your feelings. Sometimes you cannot trust your emotions. That's when we need to make sure that we don't let our emotions get over our intellect, because we'll do whatever we want to. A lot of good relationships have been destroyed because we let our emotions get over our intellect. A lot of good, healthy recovery has been lost because we let our emotions get over our intellect.
Yeah.
We know we shouldn't go to that bar, but I want to, and I'm angry at my wife, so I'll go if I want to. Or I'm ticked off at my husband, so I'm going to go out with Myrtle. Yeah, it don't make me. We used to drink together, but Myrtle told me she wouldn't drink, so we're going. Okay. So we get our intellect, our emotions over our intellect, and we'll do some goofy stuff. So we need to be. I cannot always trust my feelings. You know anybody that lives on their feelings?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. You need to get over that.
Right.
You need to work on that. But yeah, and we all have feelings. I have feelings. All of the time. There's feelings there. If you didn't have feelings, it'd be a horrible life, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have feelings, it would just not be a good place to be. Here in our situation, wouldn't be good. We want to have feelings, but we want to have healthy emotion. We want to be at the place where we can control it. I do know quite a few people because of my profession, because of what I do. I know quite a few people who live on their emotions. I mean, they're emotional every day, and usually every moment of every day. And so it's not a good thing. Now this one is, look, women are emotional and men are logical. Is that true?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, Mr. House said that's true. That's true. Because women are always emotional. They're always emotional.
That's meaning some
Men,
more emotion than women.
yeah, you got that right. So we said that's a myth. Women are emotional. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Men are emotional as well, though.
Yes.
Is that true? Absolutely. We've got there are a bunch of men more emotional than women, and it has been proven that divorce does more damage to the male counterpart than it does to the female. Females, they usually express it more openly, but they get over it. Guys hold it in, but the emotions stick with them for a longer period of time. So we are men are emotional, but they have logic. Women are emotional, but they have logic, right? So we work on both of them. So it says research shows that men and women experience emotion in similar ways. Not a lot of difference in the way we do it. We have some dissension in there. If that ain't true, okay, that's right. Look, are we allowed to feel about that the way we want to? Yes, of course. That's what the whole thing's about. Social expectations can push people to change how they express their feelings. You're a guy. You shouldn't be all that emotional. What? You're a lady. You're supposed to be What? No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm a guy. I can be emotional if I want to. I'm still look. I'm not one of these guys that say guys are supposed to be, just not any different at all. Because look, let me tell you something. Girls and guys are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a guy. That's who I am. I'm a guy. Guys and girls are different, and thank God for it. I appreciate the difference. But having said that, we still are emotional beings. We still have every emotion. Men have every emotion that ladies have. Sometimes we don't express them well, but we still have those emotions. So we can't push somebody to be what they need to be. It can be challenging to ignore those expectations and risk being authentic. So I want to be authentic. And that's why I do a lot of talking. That's why I will tell you. If you hurt my feelings, I will tell you. I had a gentleman in here, this was a long time ago, and I said something that wasn't pointed at him at all. was pointed at, the action or whatever it was, but it hurt his feelings. So what did he do? He did. He met me in the hallway back there. He didn't beat me up or anything, but he met me in the hallway back there and said, "Man, when you said that, that hurt my feelings." I said, "Well, dude, I really, I don't even know what you're talking." He said, "Well, just that word, just the word you used to describe whatever you were describing, that was what my dad called me my whole life, from childhood on up, and that really just hurt my feelings." I said, "Dude, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize." And I apologize to the whole group and let everybody know that, hey, that was not meant, and to point out one person, but it doesn't have to. It can still, if that's a place that touches you real hard, it can still be problematic, and it can still cause an emotional upheaval in your life, and that's exactly what he did. He told me about it. And so if you hurt my feelings, Mr. Freeman knows that. He wheeled by here the other day, and I talked to him about all of his, and it hurt my feelings, and we got it talked out. Yes, sir. We had some.
If you said what you probably did when you said whatever you said his father used to tell him that all his life.
Right.
So when you said that, you not knowing
right.
That brought up a lot of emotions. His father, he said his father told him that all his life. And so when you said that, you wouldn't make it that, it brought up a lot of. Yeah, because his father told him that all his life.
Sure. And that brought up a lot of those latent emotions and all of that kind of stuff. So he did exactly the right thing. He told me about it. So, okay, I agree with you. Let's not do that anymore. And to this point, I don't think I have. So it's challenging sometimes to be able to deal with that, be authentic who you are, and still maintain your role. Because I'm gonna tell you if you hurt my feelings, but that don't make me any less. I'm the John Wayne kind of guy. If you want to throw down, then we can throw down. It ain't gonna be fun. Especially if you're your size, I'm gonna have to throw down on your knee. But we can do that. But I'm going to tell you that because I do have emotions, but I'm still who I am. I'm still a man.
Still John Wayne.
I'm still John Wayne. I might walk funny, but I'll bust you up. So sometimes people just don't look. Sometimes people get offended even. Sometimes people get embarrassed. Sometimes people get intimidated, get a little afraid when you are expressing your emotion. When you do. My wife and I were in a restaurant. It was called the Catfish Kitchen.
Oh man!
Yeah, it was. And there was we were over there eating, and there was a lady, a waitress, came around the corner, and she was crying her eyes out, and she went over there and she stood in the corner and she was just crying like a baby. And there was another waitress came in right behind her and went over there and was trying to console her and take care of her and all of this kind of stuff. We never did figure out what was going on. But I'm thinking, wow, that was a little bit what? It was a little bit funny. They had that lady doing all of that crying and stuff like that. That was a little bit intimidating. That was a little bit, I didn't want to see all of that kind of stuff over there. But did she have the right? Yeah, because we never did find out what happened to her. But maybe she didn't get a big enough tip or something. I don't know what it was, but it was something bad enough to make her get to that place. Yes.
Do you like the hush puppies?
Do I like hush puppies?
That's Catfish Kitchen.
Yeah. I don't know, at the Catfish Kitchen, that's shut down. The one we used to go to, the Catfish Kitchen, is no more. But the guy opened up another place called Hamilton's, and they've got good seafood and all of that stuff there. But the hush puppies aren't
I
great.
like Catfish.
No, they're just little bitty pieces of cornbread. Hamilton's, hammer toes. You see, see the blood come from his head when it. You're awesome. You're awesome, dude. All right. Here's the deal. This is the last one of these. We're going to have to go real slow because we still got. Anyway, other people control how I feel. Is that a myth or is that true? And other people control how you feel? Well, all of these are myths, but I will tell you this: other people can control how you feel sometimes. They can. And one of those is problematic is because of anger, especially if you're angry at someone. When they walk into the room, it changes your mood. And you know, they have control and they have power over you when they walk into the room. So that's a crazy thing, yes.
No, came up with the answer that other people control how you feel.
Well, who came up with it?
Sigmund Freud.
Oh, is that right?
Psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis, where you don't take no medication, things you don't and he try to help you overcome your problem.
Okay.
Murder.
He came up with that. So the guy back in the 1600s who first put it out, called Plato, when he first put it out, he had probably got it from that guy, right?
Plato, he did Platonics. He got it out of Aristotle. And Aristotle, Plato copied out from Socrates.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Aristotle copied out from Plato.
All right. So what other people? I love it. What others do can affect how we feel. Yeah. So, but no one can make us feel a certain way. Now we talk about that. We'll be talking about that again later on in the week when I ask folks, how can someone make you feel angry? You can't make me angry.
That's a myth.
It is a myth. You cannot make me angry. Yes, sir?
I never got angry at myself. I can't be like myself, man. I think it's
Okay, well, you're wrong. But that's okay.
By myself, man. But if you can't get around, that means you can't.
No. Here, and see, and I'll just say this, and then let me say this. We're going to study anger in the, maybe tomorrow or the next day. So we're not studying anger today, but anger is an emotion, and anger is a secondary emotion. So other people and other things cannot make you angry. You have to, whatever happens, you have to choose to get angry about that. So somebody walks, like you said, somebody comes in and does something. You have the ability to choose whether or not you're going to let that slide or you're going to get angry about it. If you get angry, then that's because you wanted to get angry. It's not. Yeah, you did it. You wanted to do it. You liked the way it made you feel. You like being the power and authority that you feel like anger gives you. You like the excitement that anger brings. You do all of those things. So you choose, I'm going to get angry. Now look, here's the thing. I have people tell me all the time, when I get angry, man, it's just like that there. Boom, I'm angry. I just can't help myself. That same process is at work. It's just quick. That process, you see it, something happens, something triggers you, and you make the decision to get angry. Yes, sir.
I just get angry, my eyes turn good, start getting my heat.
Yeah, and your nose ran too. I remember those days back when you were a child. Yeah, that you can deal with it. I tell you, you have changed over the time that we just known each other. Because I tell you, some of the things that I tell you, I get pointed on you. There were times when your eyes would turn red. Your eyes don't turn red anymore because we've done it so much that you've got to a place where you know now you don't have to get angry. You have to choose to get angry. You've come 100. You've come 100 miles. I used when we first met back over yonder. I used to always carry a stick, just in case.
Sit out in the corner by myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. And we let him sit off and corner by himself because we wanted him to sit off and corner by himself. Now, get over there and sit by yourself. So no one can make us feel a certain way. Look, y'all, this is really, really good. It says we have to take responsibility for what we feel. Here's the deal. If you get angry and beat somebody to death, who's going to jail?
Me.
You're going to go to jail if you make it to jail.
But I didn't make myself think.
Well, I ain't. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And when you get to the place where people around you are forced to have to defend themselves, that's not right. That's not correct. I ought to be able to be around you, never have a worry, all of that kind of stuff. But when I have to defend myself because you cannot contain your own emotion, something happens. And so we have to learn how to do that. We have to know. That's why we have to know that we have to take responsibility for it, and we can control our own anger. But we have to know that. Because if you get nuts and you get angry and you hurt somebody, you're responsible. You're responsible.
Yeah, they made you.
Yeah, no, they didn't. We have to take responsible for how we feel, how we respond, how we react, and the consequences of that response. We got to take responsibility. If I do get angry and do something goofy, then we're going to have to take responsibility for that. Yeah, I did that. I didn't, somebody else did that. I did it, right?
Yeah.
So I have to. So it's a myth. It's a myth that other people control how you feel to the large extent. But when you are angry at somebody else, they are controlling how you feel. And I told the story the other day, but I've only got 2 or 3 stories. I have to retell them. And I told you all about the old boy that had there's another guy that's angry at me.
Right.
And there was a wedding going on, and it was at an Old River Baptist Church. And I went to Old River Baptist Church to be a part of that wedding. I just feel part of the crowd. And when I went in and sat down on the end of the pew. And Old River Baptist Church is a big old church, and it had long pew. And looked down at the other end, and there's Harold. And Harold is angry at me. Harold cannot stand me because he wanted to do some stuff that I felt was unethical, so we didn't do it. And so he saw me. He looked down there and saw me. He got up and he walked out.
Is he the harder guy?
No, this was another guy. He was a preacher guy. He's another pastor, but he saw me sitting at the end of this end of the pew, and he saw Miss Linda sit down beside me. And that old boy got up and walked out of there. I have power and authority in his life. If I don't want him to be somewhere, all I have to do is show up, and he ain't gonna stay. So I have 2 people in my life that do those things. So you might ask yourself, why do you keep making people angry at you?
He got that much disgusted for you?
Yeah.
But he jumped up and just left.
Yep. Jumped up and left.
Oh.
So, questions, comments, and snide remarks. You had something?
No, nothing I'll say.
You gonna save it for later?
I got
All right.
a style report.
Okay.
Who taught you all this?
Who taught me all of this? Man, I have a doctorate degree in all of this stuff. I wrote a bunch of it. We have meta-analysis on all of this stuff, which means we've got probably 10,000 analysis. Meta means a whole bunch put together and brought together. And all of my information comes from 2 different places. I get information sent directly to me from the CDC.
And you get information from me.
I get some information from you, and then I get information from the AMA and the APA. So what's the AMA? American Medical Association. What's the APA? Psychological Association. I have a book, and I thought I saw one around here somewhere. That's the DSM-5. Y'all know what that is? Diagnostical Statistical Manual. That's what all psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, and all. That's where we usually get our diagnoses out of. And so a lot of it comes from there. I just don't make it up, Mr. I. Yeah, that hurt my feelings. I can tell. I had a guy, look. Yeah, I've studied this. Yeah, he knew it. I have studied this stuff forever and ever and ever and ever and all of that kind of stuff. And I was talking and you're teaching something, and somebody over in the corner said, "Hey, that's your opinion." Okay, it's an educated opinion, and it's the opinion of the American Psychological Association, American Medical Association, and the Centers for Disease Control. So that's probably 3,000 medical doctors and psychiatrists and all of that said that. And so I'm not just, that's different than, and I think it's when we were talking about marijuana, because when marijuana that's an okay drug. Let's all just go get high. Everybody ain't, yeah. So anyway, all right. So here's the deal. I want to talk to us really quickly. We don't have a lot of time left today, but I do want to talk to us really quickly about emotional regulation, because we just talked about those emotions. We have emotions and all of that stuff. So how do we regulate our emotions? Right? How do we regulate them? How do we get them to that place where we want them to be? And our emotions are not controlling us, but rather we are controlling our emotions. Right? If I'm not controlling my emotion, I may need medication or something, because I have to keep my emotions under control. So we should be able to do that. If we can't, we're going to have to do something about it. Now, emotions and behaviors go hand in hand. Yes, sir.
I say evaluate the situation and learn the reason.
That's good. Evaluate the situation, learn how to reason reason the thing out. That's a really good point. And so here's the deal. Emotions and behaviors go hand in hand. Get hold of that. That's a really important statement. Listen to it. Emotions and your behaviors, emotions, how you feel, and what you do go hand in hand. So you do something, it was usually driven by emotion, how you feel. So emotions and behaviors go hand in hand. If you feel angry, you might raise your voice, start an argument. If you feel sad, you might withdraw from your friend. Actions and emotions are closely linked together.
Yeah.
So what many people don't know is that this connection goes both ways. Just as emotions can lead to behaviors, behaviors can lead to emotions. That's a good thing to know. Listen to that. Emotions can lead you to do stuff, but doing stuff can lead you to have different emotions. If you're having issues with your anger, something that you do can deal with the anger. Right? This is how you regulate your emotions. It says that this means that they're doing the opposite action. Yes, sir?
No, I was asking you said
How do you do that?
No. How regulate? I think that's a
Yeah. How do you regulate your emotions? Okay, well, this is how you do it. That means that by doing the opposite action, you can change how you feel. See, if you have anger, the action a lot of the time is to fight, yell, argue. That's where anger comes in. If you do the opposite thing, it will deal with the anger. Talk quietly and behave politely. You just do something completely opposite of what you're actually normally doing. If you typically raise your voice and you're angry, you try talking quietly, politely. If you withdraw when you feel sad, make a point of visiting a friend. It might feel forced at first, but acting oppositely can shift your feelings in a more positive direction. Yes, sir.
The 33 strategies of war, and the book 33 strategies of war, they got the way warfare. Way warfare is winning a battle by not doing nothing at all.
Yeah, that sounds really smart. I was in the military a long time. We had a few battles, but we always had to do something.
Yeah.
You know, we either fight or run away. Doing nothing, you sit there and people cut your throat.
The description was a young fighter and a older fighter. And the older fighter, every time he came by, he would be doing this, putting his sword out all nicely, and kept on doing a whole bunch of stuff. So the younger fighter got agitated and just left because the other fighter wasn't fighting.
That ain't how I do it. That's not how I do it. Look, real quickly. Have you ever had a strong emotional reaction to something?
Yes.
Of course I have.
Yeah.
So, and then, though, regretted it the next day.
Yes.
A lot of times, things that feel like a big deal in the moment turn out to be unimportant, and almost everything is unimportant after a minute.
Yeah.
You wait 5 years, and it's not important. You wait 15 minutes, and it's usually not all that important.
Yeah.
Certainly, a couple of days later, it's not important. So we look back with a clear mind, practice checking the facts to reduce the intensity of those extreme emotions. Here's the deal. I'm going to go over this and then we'll quit. Ask yourself the following questions when you notice a strong emotion happening. What event triggered my emotion? What made me feel like that? What happened? What triggered that?
Yeah.
What did they say? Say it again?
Behavior.
Whatever behavior it was that caused it. What interpretations or assumptions am I making about that? There's somebody over there who said, I've had people do it. You're stupid. Man, that don't make no sense at all. That's your opinion. You're ignorant. Okay, well, that hurts my feelings. But see, what are my interpretations? What am I assuming about that? My interpretation is that they should not say that to me. Look, I've studied this stuff all my life. They should not be telling me that. That's my assumption. But here's the deal. Do they have the right to voice their opinion?
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. They have the right to say that, so that shouldn't affect me the way that it affected me. Does the intensity of my emotion match the facts of the situation or just my assumption? You sure he's the only one you want? They got some more in here. Does the intensity of my emotion, look, sometimes a little bitty something happens and we'll turn it into this big thing. Right? Y'all notice how she did that? She's trying to keep from distracting the group, so she stands inside the door for 5 minutes, and y'all didn't hear a word I said. Y'all looking at the girl over there, and then finally she takes the guy out of the group. So anyway, questions, comments, or snide remarks? We've already had a lot of snide remarks. Go ahead. Yes, I know. Yes, sir.
I just want to say that on the emotional numbing, I completely understand that because honestly, in my addiction, like seriously all the sad shit that's happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah. He was talking about in your little handout thing you got this week. It's talking about emotional numbing, and that's what we did with our drugs and alcohol. Yeah. All right, so look, I appreciate y'all. You guys did well. Yeah.
Mermaid.
What is the immortal animal? Immortal. What is it?
Alligator. The jellyfish.
He said alligator again. He said a mermaid.
I say G-Roach.
He said a roach.
Jellyfish.
A jellyfish.
Jesus.
I want to say it's
I say roach.
Alligator.
I say a human.
That is
God don't want to.
It's a jellyfish.
Winner.
There's There's a jellyfish that can live forever. It's called the Dorney, also known as the immortal jellyfish. It can live forever. When it's injured or old, it can revert to its juvenile form, start its lifestyle over again.
That's kind of cool.
That's called transdifferentiation.